Hello! Welcome to Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Dave Riedel. I write for the Chicago Reader. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and my pronouns are he, him.
And my name is Megan Kearns. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I'm a co-host of the Slashers podcast. I'm also a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and I'm a member of Gallica, the Society of LGBTQ Entertainment Critics.
Woo! That is a long list, but it's a good list.
Thank you. I think so too.
Again, everybody, Evan is not with us this week, but he shall return sometime.
Yes.
It's his departure is open-ended, but it is, he's got things going on. So,
Indeed.
Yeah. We talk about a couple of movies here tonight, as per usual. Usual means usual if you're not in the know. And thank you. There's like a whole old Saturday Night Live bit about, of course, it's David Spade, and he's devised. And he's playing like some inventor or something, and he's devised a way to cut valuable seconds out of your time by shortening words. And it's just things like, hey, do you want regular beer or light bill? I don't know. Regular beer or light bill? I don't know. What's the diff? You see? And what I really mean is difference, but I'm saying diff. It's just... Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, on this week's episode, like I said, we got movies, but before we talk about that, I want to talk to you about Ye Olde Patreon, in which Megan and I watched the same movie, and that movie is Her, written by and directed by Spike Jonze, starring Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson and a whole bunch of other people. And we had a great conversation about a movie that I didn't used to like very much, but I came around on this viewing. And Megan, you can see whether she loves it or hates it if you listen to the to the Patreon episode. That's not really fair, but
spoiler alert, I don't hate it.
She doesn't hate it. If you're a $5 patron, that's available to you right now. And if you're not, please consider becoming one. That would be awesome. You get to vote in polls every month. You're going to have 2 polls this month because we forgot to do a poll last month.
We were busy.
Whoops.
Things were happening.
We were busy and things were happening. That's totally true. So anyway, check that out if you get a chance. That's patreon.com/spoilerpiece. So on the show tonight, we are talking about 2 movies, which I guess are both horror movies.
Yeah, they are.
Even though one of them is less horrific than the other.
It's like horror light.
Yeah, horror light. Still has a lot of blood, but definitely LITE.
Yes.
I kind of think of it as the comedy version of, what's that R.L. Stine series? Like
Goosebumps? Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Not Goosebumps. The one, is it R.L. Stine? Did he do like 1984 and 1978?
Oh, yeah.
I think of this movie like the comedy version of that, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's Totally Killer, which we'll be talking about also.
Fear Street. That's it.
Fear Street.
Yes.
Right. And then it has the year in
yes,
it. Right?
Yes.
It still has one of the best kills in any horror movie. And not surprising now that you think about it, but the head through the bread slicer. Oh, man.
That's okay. I love the Fear Street trilogy. I think they're all great. Great individually, great as a collective. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked them all a lot too.
Yep.
We like horror here on Spoiler Piece, in case you've forgotten. So anyway, let's talk about our first movie tonight, When Evil Lurks. I feel like you got to say it that way.
Yes. Evil.
Now, I know it's spelled differently, but can you imagine the conversation between Evel Knievel's parents when they were trying to decide what to name him? Honey, if it's a boy, what do you want to name it? Evil. I know it's EVEL, everybody.
Yes.
So, When Evil Lurks. This is an Argentinian film written and directed by, I apologize if I don't pronounce this correctly, Damien Ruña, starring Ezequiel Rodriguez and Damien Salomon and some other actors who are good, I think. And here's your description. In a remote village, 2 brothers find a demon-infected man just about to give birth to evil itself. They decide to get rid of the man, but merely succeed in helping him to deliver the inferno, which is a pretty accurate description.
Yes.
What is interesting about this movie, I think, is that there is no explanation for where this evil comes from.
Nope.
No explanation.
It's just here.
And no explanation for why everybody seems to know what to do to combat it.
Exactly.
Like, nobody is just like, well, you got to get a priest and an exorcism. I mean, there's some like rinky-dink kind of, metallic gold thing that you got to have, and it spins around like a fucking, looks like a telescope. And there's an old woman. Yeah, there's an old woman who like knows how to use it. But otherwise, it's just there. And everybody seems to know the rules. Like, if you're going to kill the evil, you can kill it, but you can't do it with a firearm. Well, guess what? How many people use firearms to kill the evil? I'm just going to go out and say this. See whether you agree with me or not.
All right.
But the thing that I kept thinking about the whole time is, are all the men in this movie fucking stupid?
Yes.
I mean, it's like, they're so stupid. It's almost a miracle. It's like the miracle of evil alighted upon them and was like, look at these fucking assholes. See what I can fucking do to these pieces of shit. I mean,
yes.
Everyone is telling them, don't move the guy who has the evil inside him, who's like this regular dude, we're told, who they find in a house on some land owned by Ruiz, I think, who is a farmer near these two brothers who also have their own farm. Although they seem to be not as prosperous as Ruiz. Right. But anyway, they go into this back room in this itinerant family's cabin and find this guy who basically is like a large pustule.
Yes.
About ready to burst. And after being told several times by the man's mother and brother, hey, don't move him because that'll make the evil more volatile. They're like, yeah, we'll just move him and take him to a different town. And so they do, and they almost run over a child in the road, and wouldn't you know, the body falls out the back of the flatbed of the pickup like evil possessed bodies do.
That they do.
Yeah, and they're like, you know what? It'll be fine. No problem. And so then Ruiz is back on his farm, and he's got a pregnant wife named Jimena, and I don't know what prompts her to even go outside, but she goes outside and she's like, that goat's evil. And that is actually a really good scene because there's this group of, I don't know, what do you call a group of goats? Herd of goats. Goats are just a herd. It's not like a murder of crows or a gaggle of geese or something like that. It's
or a parliament of owls.
Yeah, just a fucking herd of goats, fucking goats. So you got this one goat who does look a little more evil than the rest of them. Although, fuck, if you've ever been around goats, they're the trippiest looking fucking things.
I love goats. Goats are the best.
I know. So like, great. Hide your sweaters. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes. And they love to stand on stuff. I love it.
They do love to stand on stuff. That's true.
It's so great.
So he's got a double-barreled shotgun, Ruiz, and he fires one of the barrels into the air, and all of the goats run for the hills, except one, which turns to him. And so he aims the shotgun at the goat, and it walks over and puts its head on the barrel of the shotgun, as if saying, you know what'll happen if you shoot me? Go ahead, fucker.
Yep. The taunting goat.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. So then he shoots the goat, and he's so like,
disturbing.
It was disturbing. But then he gets an axe in the side of the head from his pregnant wife.
I know.
Who decides she would rather be dead than have the child that she's carrying be infected by the evil. So then she fucking like chops herself in the head.
Oh.
Which is just, it's really horrifying. It's more horrifying than last week when we watched Nightmare and that guy beat himself in the face with the hammer.
Oh,
You know?
absolutely. This movie has so many oh my gods, like where I was audibly like shouting at the screen.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Oh my god. Yeah, and that was the first one of my watching.
That was the first one. As we learn, the evil is just like out there.
Yes.
And it's possessing people, and no one is safe.
Nope.
So I can't remember what the main character's name is. He's so fucking dumb. Like, I think that's my
Pedro.
one. Pedro.
Yeah, it's Pedro and Jaime.
Yeah. I think my one problem with this movie is that the main character is just such an unrepentant fucking dum-dum. Like, he's just every wrong decision you can make, he makes.
He does.
He really does. He listens to no one.
Yep.
You know, male or female, but mostly he doesn't listen to women.
Right, because the women are the ones in this movie, for the most part,
who all know what's going on.
They all know what's going on. They all know what to do. They're all telling the men, don't use firearms, don't do this, don't touch this body. Right. And none of the men listen.
At least Pedro's brother, Jaime, you said.
Yes.
Is more, he's more cognizant of the rules than Pedro is.
And he listens and he tries to adhere to the rules as best as possible. Yes, he does.
So anyway, Pedro and Jaime the next morning go to his ex-wife's house, she's remarried, and he's got 2 kids with her, and then she has a 3rd kid who's a little girl named Vicky.
Oh my God, this movie.
This is where it starts to go off the rails, because everyone says like the evil will go for the animals first.
Mm-hmm.
And that proves to be true. Because I guess that Pedro and Jaime must have just bring it in the house with them, because they're not in the house more than 10 minutes.
Right.
Before, I can't remember what the dog is. It is a pit bull. It's some kind of dog with like big fucking jaws. It has grabbed Vicky by the back of the neck and is shaking her to death.
Oh my God.
In a very decent CGI way, but CGI nonetheless.
So fucked up, so disturbing.
And then it takes off out of the house with her in its mouth. And they go running after it. They can't find it. They get in the car. Pedro steals his kids, puts them in the car with his brother. They go and they find the dog and the new husband, whose name I can't remember. And he, of course, has found the dog, and he's got a shotgun pointed at it. And I think that's the one time Pedro's like, no, you can't shoot it.
Right,
you know?
right.
Like the one time Pedro uses his fucking head. And of course, he goes ahead and shoots it anyway. And it turns out Vicky's just fine, but it's because she's possessed.
Yes.
Which you have to know, you know. And so then Mom arrives, and Vicky says to Mom, she's like, you know, Daddy's going to kill you.
I know, it's so good.
And it's like,
a great scene.
What? It is a really good scene.
Oh, it's so good.
Because I think the kid who plays his young son is kind of not great.
No.
But the little girl who plays
Vicky is great.
Terrific. Because she says, Dad's going to kill you.
And she
like,
giggles.
What?
She's like, ha ha ha.
And she's like, what are you talking about? Dad's going to kill me. He's like, yeah, he's going to hit you with the car and it's going to go boom.
I know, she's so specific.
And then about 2.5 minutes later, that's exactly what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Dad gets possessed and hits the gas and just plows into Vicky and his wife, but Vicky is completely unharmed because she's possessed.
Right.
So I'm sorry to go through this beat by beat but I have to, because it's unreal.
Yeah.
Some of this. Because I think that some of this movie is fucking great.
I agree.
Like the whole concept, just like there's evil, who knows where it comes from, follow these rules.
Right.
Great. I had a really hard time with it because the main character is such an unsympathetic asshole. It's not like he's some anti-hero
he's not.
In some mold. He's just a fucking idiot, which thankfully one of the characters tells him several times, you're such an idiot.
Yes.
You know? And she means it. But of course he gets her killed too because he's fucking stupid. So
anyway. Because
anyway,
he won't listen to her.
Yeah. He won't listen to anyone.
Nope.
You know? It's like the fucking machismo out of this asshole. So anyway, they go to his mother's house, right? Isn't that it?
Yeah.
And they're holing up there for the night. And there's some woman there. Is it his great aunt? I can't remember who the other woman is. The woman who knows everything. You know?
I thought that was his mother.
No, his mother. Oh, is that his grandmother?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. There's 2 women in this house, and everyone's sleeping for the night. And the boy's mother comes back possessed, and she takes her youngest child and jumps out the window with him, and of course disappears into the night.
Oh my God.
So then everybody gets in their cars and goes looking for her. And just to make a long story even longer, Jaime sees her in the road and comes up behind her, and she is holding her child, but she's possessed, of course, so it doesn't really. And she is scooping his brains out of his head and eating them as she walks down the road, which I gotta say didn't bother me. You think that would bother me, right?
I did think that would bother you.
When Vicky got bitten at first, that bothered me, but then when she, was relieved of her ailments because she's possessed, all right. And she's kind of cute for a little doofus. So that happens, and then they go to the town where the body fell out of the flatbed of the pickup truck, and they find this school where all the kids are maybe possessed, maybe not, but maybe they're hiding the body, and they're giving them different directions as to where the body is.
Mm-hmm.
This little boy says, the body's over here in this fucking house. And she's like, no, it's over here in this house. She's like, it's in my house or whatever.
Yep.
And then the woman who is with Pedro, who knows the rituals and whatever, and she's ready to do whatever the exorcism is, she's like, nope, they're hiding the body inside. He's inside. Right. And so they go in, and she's told Pedro, go to the car and get my stuff. Don't run. What does he do? He fucking runs.
Yep.
Twice. He runs inside the building. She's like, don't run, asshole. And he's like, right. And he stops. And then it cuts outside, and he's fucking running to the truck. And it's like, who is this dumb piece of shit? You can't even say I don't believe these things are happening because you've witnessed all of this stuff.
Exactly.
So it's not like So he goes and gets her stuff. And then the little girl who's been telling him a few things, who's acting like she's not possessed, and it's a ruse. And the woman who's with him is like, dude, she's a liar. Don't listen to her. She's like, no. You can kill the guy under the stairs with the axe. And there's an axe in the principal's office over there. And the woman's like, no, there's no axe in the principal's office. She's lying.
And she's like, don't leave me. And she's like, don't leave me alone.
Right. So what does Pedro do? He runs into the office, finds out there's no axe in it.
Yep.
The children lock him in the office. They kill the old woman, drag her out, but not before she has a chance to look at him and go, you dick. I mean, with her eyes.
Yeah, she was saying a lot with her eyes.
And then he comes out and he finds the body, and he does he shoot? He does something stupid. Oh, he beats it with the part of the machine, but it's not so then the body gives birth to a child roughly the same age of the children in the school, who is evil incarnate, I guess. And he leaves a mark on Pedro's forehead, which I think...
In blood,
which I think the way the movie ends is I'm not going to kill you because you helped birth me, you dumbass, mark.
Yep.
I think that's what that is. And then Pedro returns home and finds out that the little boy from the original cabin where the evil was head ate his mother.
Yep.
And then one of Pedro's older child ate his grandmother.
Yep.
And
but as he's pulling out her hair and necklace that he's choking on.
Right. And then he goes outside and starts sobbing in the lawn.
Yeah.
And that's how things end.
As they do.
Pedro has unleashed evil
into
Argentina,
world.
And I guess the rest of the world eventually.
Yeah.
Think of it like The Thing, except evil instead of like a shapeshifter, I guess. I don't know. So the big problem I had with this is just watching these fucking morons make mistake after mistake after mistake and learn nothing. It's just really... Were you frustrated by that?
I was frustrated by Pedro, but I will say, at least Jaime, the scene where he sees the ex-wife eating on the brains of the kid. At least he doesn't use a gun and he like mows her down with the car and like tries to like kill her. Like at least he's trying to adhere to the rules. But yes, I found Pedro extremely, I mean, all the men really in this movie, but especially Pedro was extremely frustrating.
Yeah. And Pedro, part of the reason he's so frustrating is whoever played him is a really good performance.
Yeah, it is good.
Maybe a little too good there, pal. Maybe take it back 5% next time. So that's my big problem with it. Is just like you've got this really cool idea, which I'm sure has been out there in some way, but I haven't really heard it done quite this way or seen it done quite this way.
Yeah, I the only thing I can really compare it to, there's two things. It kind of reminded me of I can't think of the movie. It's the one with Denzel Washington and the serial killer and like with the handshake.
Where he goes into the cat's body at the end.
Yes. Yeah.
Gregory Hoblet's the director. I can't remember.
I cannot think of the name of the movie. It's going to drive me bonkers until I think of it after the show. But anyway, that movie, it kind of reminds me of that like the possession keeps happening and keeps shifting and you don't know exactly who is being possessed. And then it also kind of reminds me vaguely of It Follows, just that, again, it's something that's always coming and you always have to be vigilant. But I mean, even so, even though I'm reminded of those two films, it's still doing this in a very different way. It's dealing with possession and plagues in a very, very unique way, which I really appreciate. And I I was blown away by some of those kills. Like the animal deaths are horrific, of course. The child deaths are horrific, of course. There's some shocking moments here that are really great visually. I really loved the score. I thought it had a really propulsive element that was really unnerving. So I liked this clearly more than you because I just chalked it up to, I'm going to say this, but as a woman navigating the world, I'm used to men not listening, even just in my own life, but just seeing it collectively play out in society. So I'm kind of like, yep, this is what happens if they just listen to the women. But it was very frustrating, but yeah. But I did enjoy it. I don't know if I'd say enjoy is the right word, but I had a fascinating time with this.
It has a consistent atmosphere.
Yes. And it is one of dread and foreboding. And it is just like the shit that happens in this film is like, damn. It does not shy away from things.
Every time you think it can't get worse, it gets worse. It's amazing.
Yes.
But one thing before we go on, Fallen. That's the movie you're thinking of.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Great movie. Thank you. That is what
I've never seen it.
It's a good one. I highly recommend it.
Somebody told me that the evil like jumps into a cat at the end. Like, you'll like it. A cat's evil. I was like, what?
Yeah, it is. It's a good ending. The whole film is good. Yeah, I mean, how can you not like Denzel Washington? But it's a clever movie. It's a clever serial killer possession evil kind of movie that I really like. It's not horror, but it's still very clever, and I like it. The other thing too that I'm reminded of that we haven't. I mean, you mentioned it and you did talk about it, but I think this is really cool. Is this notion of literally birthing evil, but it's. I mean, yes, it's arguably genderless, but it's doing it via the body of a man. Like that's very fascinating to me that it is literally using pregnancy and birth in a very literal way with possession and kind of producing evil. I don't know. I found that kind of fascinating too.
Yeah. I didn't think about that so much because I was thinking about how stupid everyone is.
You were too annoyed by all the inane decisions.
I was gonna say the other thing that really bothered me is how much screaming there is in this movie by the main characters.
There's a lot of screaming.
There's just a lot, and it's just like, dude, he's standing right next to you. Just fucking lower your voice. Like, what the hell? Yeah, I don't think that I could, in good conscience, recommend this just because of the stupidity. I mean, that's not fair.
But the movie's not stupid. It's the character.
No, the
that's
movie's not stupid.
Yeah.
But in a way, the movie's kind of making it easier for itself. The writer-director's kind of making it easier for, like, if your main character's a jackass and you need all of these things to happen, just make your main character fucking dumb, or ignorant, or not listen to somebody who's smarter than he is. I mean, there's no it's not, and he's not doing any of these things maliciously. He's just a jackass,
Yes.
Like just, he's a dope. So he does smoke a cigarette in one of the most interesting ways I've ever seen, but that's neither here nor there.
I don't even remember that. I think I was too traumatized by the eating the brains of the child and the goat's head being blown off, the poor goat. Anyway. That
is really a stunning visual because the
child... Oh my God. It is something. And I love that we see it through, like, we're inside the car and we're seeing it, snippets of it through the car door windows until we see it full on. Oh my, great visuals. So good.
Yeah. Definitely well done.
Yes.
Do you have anything else to say about when evil lurks? When evil lurks?
Yeah, I mean, if you can handle the animal death and the child death, I would say I would recommend it because I think it's quite a nasty ride. I mean, some shocking things happen in this movie, and it's something else. So I would recommend
really
it for
well
that.
Directed.
It is. It is. Great tone, good pacing. Yeah, I would recommend it.
For the most part, well acted,
Yes. Especially Vicky. I think Vicky is the unsung hero of this movie.
Like when she's dancing around after her mother gets hit with that car,
so
I was
good.
just like, I couldn't help but like laugh a little bit because like, hey, evil scored that one and evil's rejoicing,
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So that's when evil lurks, coming to a fucking gross drive-in near, I don't know where it's coming. It's coming out in theaters and on Shudder.
Shudder at the end of the month.
Yeah. So our next movie is totally killer. This is it's a movie. It's another horror movie. Although, as we were talking about earlier, it is kind of horror light.
Yes.
I don't know how to pronounce this name. Nanachka Khan
is
the director. That's actually, now that I'm looking at her name, that does seem like it would be reasonable. Has 3 writers, stars Kiernan Shipka and Olivia Holt, and far too little Julie Bowen.
Way too little of Julie Bowen.
I thought she was going to be like a main character, and she sort of is. Her 16-year-old self is.
Right.
But Julie Bowen, the lovely 52-year-old we all know and love, she's only in it for like 12 minutes or something like that. I
know. But damn, does she make the most of those 12 minutes?
She does. And I also have to give credit to the young performer who plays her as a 16-year-old because she gets like Julie Bowen's mannerisms down.
Yeah.
It's really kind of amazing. Unlike in that fucking movie where Vince Vaughn is a serial killer and he switches bodies with the teenage girl. Freaky, because he's not playing the same character she is, but that's okay.
No. It's a good movie, but he is not playing the same character.
He is not playing the same character.
He's playing a different one.
So anyway, the story with this is there's a 35 years ago on Halloween night, this serial killer stabbed these 3 girls who were all 16 years old, stabbed them all 16 times, 2 days apart, ending on Halloween. And I guess that's really it. And then it's Halloween, and Kiernan Shipka is going to go to a concert, and her mom is Julie Bowen, and she's being kind of shitty to her. And she leaves, and Julie Bowen is like handing out the Halloween candy. And then we should mention that the killer wore this like mask, which is kind of looks like, what's that? The blonde cartoon guy who had the big pompadour. What's his name?
Johnny Bravo?
Yeah, he looks kind of like Johnny Bravo, but without the pompadour.
Yes.
Right down to the sunglasses. He knocks on the door and she's like, oh my God, these masks. Like, of course it would be popular. And it turns out it's like someone trying to kill her. And he does. He kills the shit out of her. But not before.
Yeah, she gives quite a fight.
She does. She says something to the effect of, I've been waiting for this for 35 years. You think I haven't trained? She's got like a couple of hidden guns. She knows like martial arts. Mm-hmm. And the only reason that she gets got is because he just leaves the house, and she's like, what the fuck is he doing leaving the house? Then he comes around the back and comes in through the back door and kills her that way.
It's sneaky.
Yeah. You think that somebody who had been practicing for this for 35 years would have seen that coming, but okay. This movie is a time travel movie, I should mention. And so it has some logic gaps, some time travel gaps. I don't know exactly. So anyway, Kiernan Shipka, for some reason, just is going to school sometime later. They don't say how much time has passed between like when her mom died and when she's back at school, but it's definitely a short period of time.
Yes.
Because everyone is like, we're so sorry for your loss. And the principal and the gym guy and the town sheriff are there in the front of this class, and they're talking about all these things they can do. And they're like, we're so sorry for your loss and blah, 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 blah. And the sheriff is implying, it's like, where was your dad the night of the murder? And she's like, fuck you. Your dad is a rent-a-cop who couldn't solve first murders, bitch. Whatever she says. And then her best friend is this like genius girl who's trying to build a time machine. Yes. Like, I don't know why she's trying to build a time machine. I think just for the science fair, right?
Yeah. Well, her mom had started trying to build a time machine and like had notes. And so she found the notes and then was trying to like resume her mom's research for the science fair. Yes.
Right.
I guess as you do.
Yeah. So Kieran, there's this abandoned like amusement park on the edge of town that the school has rented to have the science fair. Mm-hmm. And so the friend has her time machine down there, and Kiernan Shipka goes there to find her, and for some reason the killer is following her and tries to kill her, and so she gets in the time machine, which is a photo booth, and she goes back to 1987, which is when the first murders happened. And I think she accidentally brings the killer with her, doesn't she?
No. So
he finds her later. That's right.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So there's photos of them because he's in the photo booth, but she like pushes him out before she actually goes back in time. Because he like stabs, and that's what activates is he stabs the like console, and because it needed an extra metal conductor, according to the friend. to the friend.
So that's right. Okay. Because the killer, different killer. The friend ends up getting, I don't know if she's killed or if she's just maimed, but
Who?
In the friend who built the time machine, when she's back, and this is what happens when you have movies with parallel with timelines. So there's the time machine is like in 1987, right?
Yes.
And so the friend builds in 2023, she builds a second time machine.
Yes, she does.
And so whoever the killer is in 2023 steals it from her.
Yes.
And travels back to 1987.
Yes.
To, I guess, kill Kiernan Shipka. I'm not sure. Whose name is Jamie, by the way. And so there's it turns out that like mom was a mean girl, kinda, but not really. And she's got these three friends who are like mean girls. And it's 1987. So there's all of this, Jamie, Kiernan Shipka, is horrified by the like things they call each other. Like there's some girl that they call Fat Trish, and and she's like, how about just call her Trish? You can't call her that. And
all of the smoking, which is excessive, and the racist mascot on the
right.
And I love how she's like, the racism, there it is. I knew we were gonna see it eventually. Yeah.
And
she's also I was going to say she's also horrified by what I love is like, she's like, I know you need to verify that I'm a transfer student and blah, blah, blah. And the person's like, this isn't Fort Knox. Here's your schedule. Here you go.
Yeah.
And later in the movie, she's like, the 80s were wild.
Yeah. She goes back there at some point. She's like, can you tell me where so-and-so is in class? I have chemistry with her. She makes something up. And the woman just like says, yeah, she's in room 223. And she's like, cool. And that's when she's like, God, the 80s are like, how did anybody like, I'd hate to see what boarding planes is like in 1987.
Yes, exactly. And she's not wrong.
No. So anyway, there is this interesting idea that they keep referencing Back to the Future as the ultimate time travel movie, which it kind of is. And
they would have all seen it, arguably, because it was so huge in 1985.
Right. So anyway, Kiernan Shipka finds her friend from 2023, finds her mom.
Yes.
And is like, all right, so your daughter made a time machine with your notes, and that's why I'm here, and there's these murders that are going to happen, and we've got to stop them. And to make a long story short, she doesn't stop them. She changes the order. She changes the room that one of them is killed in. She changes the order they happen in, and ends up getting her dad and mom stabbed in the process.
Yes.
But not before she sees her dad crawling out of a swimming pool, and she's like, whoa, who's that guy? And it's like, oh, it's Blake Hughes. And she's like, what? And she's like, that's my dad.
And she also happens to hasten her mom and dad hooking up.
Getting together. That's right. So anyway, the reason that the friend's mom believes her, that she's a time traveler, is that, the notebook that her daughter in 2023 is using, she had never told anybody about. And she's like, oh, well, you must have gotten that information from her. So she starts trying to build a time machine, which she does eventually. And Kiernan Shipka makes friends with all of the kids at school who are part of this peer group. And she's trying to stop these murders from happening, which she doesn't. And did you see the killer's identity coming? Did you figure who it was?
I did.
Yeah, I did too. I was kind of bummed out.
I mean, I went back and forth a couple times because I was like, well, maybe it's a red herring, but I was like, no, I did figure. Well, but we should say there's actually two killers. So
right.
And it's funny because Jamie says that at one point. She's like, maybe there's two killers like Scream. And her best friend's
right.
mom back in 1987 is like, what's Scream? And she's like, oh, right, you haven't seen it yet. It hasn't come out. And I do love that, there's kind of that meta reference to Scream because surprise, there are two different killers. So
well, she makes it two killers.
She does inadvertently.
She's the one. Yeah, she inadvertently makes a second killer because they.
Well, wait a minute. Actually, no, she doesn't make the second killer because. Yeah, no, she doesn't because he.
This is the paradox.
Well,
because
exactly.
Because the principal, so the killer turns out to be like the school principal in 1987, but they kill him in 1987. They find out who it is. And I can't remember who kills him. Oh, it's the sheriff's daughter who's the stoner.
Yes. She's like, I told you guys I wasn't the killer.
Yeah. And she goes, after the then a second killer comes in and cuts the third victim's throat. Yeah. Which is actually kind of sad that all these girls still end up dead.
No.
But so here's where the paradox comes in, because the killer, the future high school principal in 1987 is dead, and the best friend's mom, a second killer comes in and cuts the other girl's throat, and Kiernan Shipka's like, oh my God, but what, he's still there in the future. And then the best friend's mom says, no, if he's dead here, he'll be dead in the future. That's someone else. So how did the guy who has the podcast about the murders, who ends up being the second killer.
Yes.
That's where the paradox is, because so the principal should have killed Julie Bowen, right? But the moment they kill him in 1987, she's no longer dead in 2023.
No. The principal wasn't the one who killed Julie Bowen. It was the podcaster who came and killed Julie Bowen. Yes. Because Kiernan Shipka says, you killed my mom. Why? And he says, because he's like, the fervor had died down for the murders. So he was the killer, the original killer of Julie Bowen in 2023.
Right. Okay. I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot they had that conversation.
Yeah. In the confrontational showdown. Not tilt-a-whirl, but I can't think of what the drop zone or whatever it is.
Yeah, the one where you stand on the wall and then the floor, it spins and the floor drops out from under you.
Yes.
Which, knowing how carnivals operate, don't ever go on one of those things.
Yeah, I don't go on carnival rides.
Yeah.
They're too janky. No, thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, this has got some. I mean, this has all the problems that horror movies have nowadays, which is like CGI blood, really irritating.
I was not expecting that's where your concerns were going to go.
well, that, and now that you've said that, I had forgotten that they had that conversation about you killed my mom.
Yeah.
And so, okay.
I'm not saying there aren't like temporal paradoxes. I'm just saying like that one, no, he already was a killer then. So
right.
That's one I can fix.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the other ones then? Because I had a couple written down, but I don't fucking have my notes with me.
This is why for me, when I watch a time travel movie, I feel like you have to just let logic go out the window because you will drive yourself wild if you try to keep track of everything. And so I try, and I don't always succeed. And it depends on how enjoyable the movie is, because if it's more enjoyable, I'm much more willing to give more leeway and leniency than if it's less enjoyable. But I usually am just like, you know what? I'm not going to overthink this. I'm just going to kick back and adhere to the rules that they're laying out. So I was not as hung up on the time travel potential paradoxes as maybe I should have been or others would be.
There's one major problem, though, and Back to the Future has the same problem, which is, this person played such a major part in your lives.
Yep.
Granted, it was 30 years ago. But this person who came back in time played such a large part in your lives. When they're growing up, wouldn't you be like, boy, she sure bears a striking resemblance
right?
to the girl who we met for a week in 1987,
Yep. No, I agree.
Yeah. But everyone, when she gets back to the future, it's hard to say that and mean that, but not be talking about the movie.
Right.
No one seems to have any qualms about her presence there.
No, the only one who is aware is the best friend's mom, who has kept a journal of all the differences and all the things that have changed.
All the things she changed, right?
Yeah, which are a lot, including she now has a brother who is gay and has a husband and a child and has taken her name.
Yeah, his name. So mom and dad got together immediately instead of waiting until after college. And they had a kid, I guess, when they were really young, named him Jamie.
Yep.
And then waited another 18 years to have her, which is strange, but not unheard of. Geddy Lee from Rush has 2 kids, 14 years apart, same spouse. And then I have a good friend. Yeah, I have a good friend who now, I got to calculate age. She's 44, and her next oldest sibling is 59. So, and then she's got 2 more older siblings after that. So, same parents. So, anyway, that's neither here nor there. It is kind of here or there. But there's these other changes too. And the best friend's mom, I don't know what was going on. I don't remember what was going on with her in 2023, but you got the feeling that she had kind of a shitty life somehow.
Yeah, because she was withdrawn and she didn't seem very happy about going to work. And now she seems like she's leading the best life ever.
Yeah, well, obviously the science thing worked out. She invented the time machine.
Yes.
And so, and she does make a funny joke about it. She's like, oh, I was going to be there to meet you when you came back. She said, you can invent a time machine, but you can't remember that there is such a thing as daylight savings.
I know. I love that. That was cute. That was very
actually
cute.
Pretty good. I mean, I had fun with this overall. I think that.
Oh, good. It didn't sound like it.
Well, no, I kept getting
said that.
I keep getting hung up on just come on, of course they're going to recognize her eventually. And, when maybe they already had that conversation, but, the other thing we should mention that Jamie's name is no longer Jamie because her brother is Jamie. And she says, wait a minute, my parents have 2 kids named Jamie. She's like, no. And then Julie Bowen comes out. She's like, hey, Colette, can you help me do this? And it's like, what? So her name's Colette. I don't know where they got that from. It's a nice name.
It's a nice name.
It is a nice name. But I mean, I also kind of have fun with the mind fuckery of that being like, I've only known myself as Jamie and now I have to go around being Colette.
Right, right. It's funny that you say that. I thought about that. I'm like, would she still refer to herself as Jamie to like close friends or something. You know what I mean? But like to her parents and family, she's Colette. Anyway, I thought about that too. I was like, that's something that's like small, but actually such a big deal.
Yeah. And then just you have to think about the timing worked out so that she was born at the same time and this, that, and the other. And I don't know. But that's one of those things I think, like you said, with a time travel movie, you just kind of have to go with it.
I feel like time travel movies are, and that's why they're so tricky. And I feel like that's why certain films, like this film, is trying to have a meta thing, like, oh, like Back to the Future. And when Jamie's like, she asks her best friend's mom, she's like, oh, in Back to the Future, if, you know, my parents don't get together, does that mean I disappear? And the friend's like, no, that's not what that means. It just means you'd go back and no one would recognize you. You'd have no life. So it's like trying to address the paradox problems, but very few, I feel like very few time travel movies actually address it well. So I'm just like, I'm not going to enjoy any time travel movies if I'm picking it apart. And I get why people do. I get why you do. It's just, I like kind of have to shut my brain off in that regard and be like, because otherwise I'll just like climb the walls, like drive myself wild.
Yeah. There's also a good explanation for why the 2023 killer doesn't end up killing anybody in 2023.
Yes.
Yeah.
By the way, so I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is one of the most... So that was the most shocking kill to me in this movie, when his dad, who is a reporter, gets stabbed in the head on national television. Like, that's wild.
Yeah. Well, I it's interesting that you say that, because that's when I was like certain that he was the other killer.
Yeah.
Because I was like, the whole time I was like, I bet it's the podcast guy.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But then when he stabbed his father in the head, I was like, oh, it's definitely him.
Because why else would you do that? Yeah,
exactly.
Right. Totally.
And,
yes.
And there was I was just going to say, there was also, he clearly had this hang up, although he didn't act like it was a hang up, about his father being a famous, Pulitzer Prize winning reporter.
Oh, he clearly
and he just had
did.
a podcast.
Right. Yeah, I know. I mean, as fellow podcasters, I understand being defensive about podcasting, because some people like are so blasé about it, like, oh, it's just a stupid podcast. But, when you put your, heart and soul and blood, sweat, and tears into something, like, I get it. I understand that. But that doesn't mean that the guy should have run around and been murdering people. Like, that's just absurd. But speaking of kills, I will say, I liked, but was also slightly disappointed. I liked that there was a kill on a waterbed, but I was disappointed at the execution, because all I could think of was, because I'm doing the Slashers podcast and watching 80s slasher movies, there's an 80s slasher movie called Pieces that has a phenomenal kill in a waterbed. Like, it is gory and graphic, and it is a unique kill. And I was hoping that it would kind of pay more homage to that and be like this really wild kill, and it's not. So it was kind of disappointing. But then I'm also like, did somebody think like, oh wow, this would be cool if we do a kill on a waterbed? Or had someone seen Pieces and was a fan? Like, I'm curious, because there's little touches of horror movies and slashers, but there's not a ton. Like, I kind of wish there were almost a bit more nods to the heyday of the genre, but that's okay.
I think this movie is more interested in being a time travel movie than it is a slasher movie.
I completely agree with you. And I think that's the thing. I think I wanted it to lean a little more into the slasher rather than the time travel. And I also, like, when I read the premise of this, that it was a daughter teaming up with her mom, like in Final Girls, like teaming up. I'm like, that's so cool. And I do love that Jamie really is kind of the ultimate final girl in many ways, because she has a gender neutral name, as many final girls do historically. And she is back in time to try to she's specifically trying to prevent her mom from being killed, but she's also trying to prevent obviously the other kills too. And I love that nobody's really listening to her because they don't take her seriously. And she's witnessing all of these deaths and she's getting traumatized from it. Not that the film dwells on that, But she is, and again, that's such a role that the final girl embodies, is that she's seeing all of her friends and her peers being murdered and kind of the trauma that unleashes. And so I love that. And so it does have those slasher elements and touches to it. I just wish it leaned a little bit more into it. But you're totally right. It is much more in the comedy time travel camp.
Yeah. And a lot of the comedy stems from the differences of a young person from 2023
Yes.
experiencing what the 80s were like and getting, in my opinion, the light version.
Yes. But I do have to say, I don't know about you, but I busted out laughing at this, which clearly, I'm, showing my age here. But when she talks to the mom, who's like, after Jamie's just gotten out of the booth and she's just time jumped, and she's talking to the mom with the kids, and the mom's like smoking and wearing, an outfit, like not a tracksuit, but kind of like that kind of outfit. And she's like, oh, honey, I'll just drive you over to the school. And she's like, no, I'm not getting in a car with a stranger. You could be a serial killer. And she's like, oh, honey, would a serial killer wear Gloria Vanderbilt? And I'm like, Gloria Vanderbilt?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, that's a name I haven't heard in ages in fashion. Like, it was just, I couldn't stop laughing because I'm like, wow,
that made me laugh too.
Good. I love it because I'm like, that's such a blast from the past. Like,
The other thing that made me laugh harder, though, is it probably shouldn't, is that mom, she does take the ride to school, and then the mom smokes with the windows up.
Yes.
Which I know so many parents who smoked in the 80s who did that, and I have no idea how their children are alive. Like, no idea.
Well, as a child who had a parent who smoked with the windows up, I will tell you, I have asthma and earaches from it. So I'm alive, but not doing spectacularly. But I also love that the kids kind of look like not horrified, but they're kind of like, yep, we're in this car. Like,
yeah.
I will say that it's such a small thing, but it's such a big thing because, I was traveling to Europe recently and the smoking just kind of blew my mind that like everyone smokes everywhere. And I'm just not used to that. So seeing a teen encounter that in the 80s is I think really funny, which of course is very similar to Back to the Future when Marty, is experiencing the cultural differences between the 50s and the 80s. So it's been done before, but it's a good one. It's a good template. What's
great about Back to the Future now is there are people who have not seen it and who are going to watch it and be like, what's a Pepsi free? What is that? They're not going to get that joke.
I know. Or like when he's like, give me a tab. And the guy's like, tab? I can't give you a tab until you pay for something. But again, people are not going to know what a tab is.
I know. Oh, man. Or our coffee earns high praise. URNS, with the, like, how many people know what a coffee urn is,
Yeah. Yeah.
Time travel movies.
Wild. But yes, but I don't think I said this. I agree with you. I like Kieran Shipka. I think that she's great as Jamie. I just wanted more Julie Bowen. I think for me, I wanted more in the slasher camp and much more Julie Bowen. But I was like, damn, Julie Bowen's, rocking ass here as, a woman in her 50s holding her own against a serial killer. Even though, as we find out, the guy's the same age as her. But so I think she could have done better. Or he shouldn't have done as well. But they're probably
he surprised her.
He did surprise her. And you could also argue that they're probably trying to throw you off the trail of who the killer is. But
right.
Yeah. But anyway, I had a lot of fun with this. I thought this was a delight.
Yeah.
Despite any issues, I think it's absolutely delightful.
Yeah. I was pleasantly surprised because I remember thinking, oh yeah, totally killer, Julie Bowen, sweet. And then when she got murdered instantly, I was like, no. And then it turned out to be cool because, Kieran Shipka is very good.
She is. And I will say, I had a feeling I was probably going to like this anyway because I really like Nahnatchka Khan's earlier movie, Always Be My Maybe, with Ali Wong and Randall Park. Yeah.
Did she do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why Randall Park is the sheriff.
Yes, exactly. Yes. But yeah. But I think that's a super cute rom-com and really, really sweet and funny. So
I also think it's funny that his daughter in 1987 is such a stoner. That's just hilarious. And also that Kieran Shipka eats like 5 pot brownies but doesn't get high because the weed is so shitty.
Yes, the shitty weed in the 80s.
If I told you that I could give you a gummy bear. Yeah.
But that's funny because that's something like I hadn't really thought about. I'm like, oh, yeah, guess that would be different.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Any closing thoughts on Totally Killer?
No, just that's a lot of fun.
Okay. This one comes out today on ye old Prime Video. So, if you got the Prime, go ahead, check it out. And to recap, when evil lurks, I mean, I guess I'd say go ahead and see this if you can get past like dumb characters.
And see, I would say if you can get past animal deaths and kid deaths.
I'm not, the kid deaths don't bother me so much in this because A, it's a horror movie, and B, like once you know the conceit is like evil possession, whatever it's
Yeah,
like,
no,
well, the
totally.
rules are a little different now.
No, I know. But there have been other kid death movies and horror movies that you're like, I can't watch these anymore.
Oh, for sure.
So I think it obviously depends, So your mileage may vary on that front, of course. But yeah.
So anyway, those are the movies, gang. And before we go, I wanted to give a big shout out to our sponsor piece patron, Heather Sachs. Heather, thank you so much for being our sponsor piece patron. It means a lot to us.
Thanks, Heather.
And speaking of patrons, remember we're talking about Her, the 2013 Spike Jonze movie. That's over on patreon.com/spoilerpiece. You can go listen to it now if you are a patron, and if you're not, please consider becoming one. That would be awesome. We love our patrons. You guys are very cool.
Indeed.
Also of note, we're going to have a poll next week. Yay! So look out for that. Want to thank our editor, Otto Clamor. Otto, thank you for making us sound good, great every week.
Thanks, Otto.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can do with the quality of my, input, but the sound quality is awesome. You can find,
Dave.
Yeah, I know. Well, especially this week with this weird cold voice that I have. Anyway, you can find us anywhere you get podcasts. You can find our website, spoilerpiece.com. If you want to follow us on social media, we're Spoiler Piece Theater on Facebook. Everywhere else, we're at Spoiler Piece. That's Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd. Do we have a Threads page yet? I don't even remember.
We do not.
Okay, well, we'll
we
get
should
one.
Get one.
No one's going to fucking take at Spoiler Piece. And if you do, God damn it, I'm coming for you. Anyway. If you want to get in touch with us, you can send us an email, spoilerpiece@gmail.com, or you could give us a call
at 862-21-PEACE.
And please leave us a voicemail and tell us whether I kind of got up my own ass about the time travel stuff this week, and whether dumb movie characters bother you. So if you like the show, please rate and review us by going to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece, or you can rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That helps us out a lot. If you really like the show, like I said earlier, please join our Patreon. And my name is Dave Riedel. I write for the Chicago Reader. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and I'm Dave Sees Movies on all the social media, whatever. So just, Google, you'll find me, whatever.
And I'm trying to compose myself off to the side because Dave is making me crack up.
Sorry.
No, it's great. My name is Megan Kearns. What am I saying? Oh, my name is Megan Kearns. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I'm also a co-host of the Slashers podcast. I am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and I'm a member of Gallica. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at OpinionSWorld, or on Instagram and Letterboxd at TheOpinionS.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Thanks. Bye.